Saw a photo of you. Connor has a question.
Yeah, Coach, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but your best recruiting may have, come from a photo of you in a Ferrari with your triple styrofoam cup and America's Best being absolutely littered in your side door. If you weren't aware of that, just know, everyone's talking about it. Absolutely loving it. Here's one of the videos. I assume that's one of your 6, 7, 8 Ferraris. It looks amazing. Were you aware of that photo kind of going viral a little bit? And did you know that you probably got about 5 stars committing to your school today because of it?
I don't know. They all want to drive it. But look, I got kind of hoodwinked into that. One of the guys that was visiting, we always have the players over to the house for breakfast on Sunday morning. And we walk out and they see the car and they all, boo and all about the car. And they said, why don't you start it up so we can see what it sounds like? So I went and got the keys and started it up. I didn't know the guy was going to video it and it was going to go viral, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
We have the parents over on Saturday night, so they would have been much more interested if they'd have caught me line dancing.
I've seen you in some living rooms. Cupid shuffling out there. You got some rhythm, huh? West Virginia boy got a little and the triple styrofoam cup. Ooh. I mean, across all demographics, that was beloved. Because that's either lean, which we assume it's not, or and so, I mean, Coach, the more we learn about you, I think the more we love you.
Yes.
And you need to understand that. I assume you've been very guarded for a long time because you're ultra competitive and everything like that. And whenever you said you would come and do this show every single week, a lot of people said things like, oh, he's not his phone. It's like, people love you, Coach. You know that because you're still that same West Virginia boy who just so happens to be the greatest of all time. It's a cool thing. We're very grateful for that this year.
Well, some of the things I learned growing up in West Virginia in a coal mining town have been very beneficial to, getting to know how to really talk to, articulate with, communicate with, everybody, no matter where they come from, what their socioeconomic background is. Because there's a lot of good people in West Virginia, and I learned a lot of good lessons growing up. And obviously, being in competitive sports since the time I was 9 years old, I had some great coaches and good mentors, and they all helped.
Yeah, well, they did a good job. They did a good job. Joining us now, 7-time national champion, by all accounts, the greatest college football coach of all time, friend of the program, ladies and gentlemen, head coach of Alabama, Nick Saban.
Yeah,
How we doing today, guys?
How are you doing? 17 days away from the Rose Bowl. How are we doing right now? How's life? We recruiting? We coaching? What do we got going on today, Coach?
Well, we've been recruiting for the last 2 weeks, but today everybody's off the road, so we're really using it as a planning day to get ready, and we start practicing tomorrow. Players have done a good job of working out on their own and with the strength and conditioning coaches for the last couple of weeks, so we start getting ready today.
Okay, so tomorrow when you guys get back on the field for practice, is it technique, fundamentals, or are we implementing plan for Michigan? You guys are underdogs.
Yeah. Yep.
Underdogs. You don't want to hear it, obviously. Who cares what sportsbooks say? But underdogs in the Rose Bowl after a huge win over Georgia. Are we techniques, fundamentals, or are we working on Michigan immediately?
We go 3 days. First 3 days of practice is sort of like fundamental camp practices. Where we try to get guys, back in the groove. One of the big things in bowl games, especially when you've had some time off, is getting the techniques right. Tackling is a big thing in bowl games because guys haven't played for a while. So we spend 3 days on that, and then after 3 days, then we'll go through a regular week here and do the same thing once we get out there.
What I used to do is tackling drills, You used to have to really drive your feet. Make sure you super physical, Coach. You know what I mean? No missed tackles out of this particular punter kicker. Go ahead, AJ.
Coach, how important is all these extra practices for some of your younger, less experienced guys that haven't had a ton of game action? I would assume, I know coaches at smaller programs at times, they use it and they think it's very, very valuable to get padded practices for young people. Are you kind of using that in the same way?
Well, especially in these first 3 days. I mean, once you get past these first 3 days, you got to get back to coaching the guys that can play in the game. One of the new rules that I think is really good for young guys is, you can actually come to bowl practice now if you're mid-year graduate that's starting school in January. So we'll have some of those guys in here. It'll be a good experience for them to get acclimated. to what, college practice is like, college preparation is like, fundamentals, scheme, all that type of thing. But, once we get past these first 3 days, we got to focus pretty much on the guys that can play in the game. But there is a lot of fundamental work that the young guys get because they're practicing much better than if they're not out there practicing for, I think we'll have 11 or 12 practices for this game.
What's the reports out of the weight room over the last couple of weeks from the boys? We a healthy team? We stronger than we were at the beginning of the season? Because sometimes, at the beginning of the season, you're in the best shape you've been in because you had all summer, you had all off-season workout, and then during the season, you get beat up, you're not able to do it. What's the report out of the weight room for the boys?
Good. Everything's good. There's so much technology now in terms of being able to monitor guys' explosive movement, speed. I know we got catapult on everybody. We know if guys are losing speed. We know if their explosive power and strength is staying where it needs to be. So we have a baseline on every player. And obviously this 2 weeks, get some players back to where they need to be. So it's been good. But they've had a great attitude, worked hard. And our strength guy here, Dave Ballou, does a fantastic job. And players relate well to him. And I think that's really important when they have to work out on their own.
Strength coach, maybe the most important person in the entire building, outside of the head coach, obviously, but strength coach is with the players the most, right? And also your culture setterer?
And no doubt. That's very, very important. That guy's, like we're recruiting for the last 2 weeks, so those guys are really managing our team from a psychological disposition standpoint, work ethic standpoint, discipline to do things the right way. So, and they're with them more than maybe the coaches are, especially in the offseason.
Yeah. Mike Barwis was our strength coach, and I'd never lifted a weight before, so that was the first time I'd been in the gym. That was quite a baptism by fire situation, but then you quickly realize, this guy genuinely wants my best interest, and I'm going to be with him every day. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to puke a lot through this entire thing. What a weapon if you have a good one. Sounds like you obviously do. Tone has a question for you, Coach.
Coach, you're no stranger to this layoff, being in the playoffs so many times. But because you've been in it so many times, is it an advantage? And how long did it take you, and how many things did you change from the first time you had this long of a layoff until now? And do you like this much time or dislike it? And then next year, with the playoff format, it's going to be shortened down. So are you happy about that? Just the whole layoff?
Well, I think that I've learned a lot through the years. In the very beginning when I was a head coach, especially at Michigan State, I think we lost 5 straight bowl games or something. We used to try to practice our way to the game. In other words, we'd practice a couple days, go recruiting a few days, practice a couple days. So everything got sort of stretched out for a whole month when you're playing in a bowl game or something. And when we adopted the philosophy that, it's more like a one-game season and look at it that way and just let the players work on their own for a couple weeks, do some simulated training, do some stuff to keep them in shape for what they need to do. But when you start practicing, actually be able to practice for the game and have those 11 or 12 practices to get ready to go. And I think psychologically it's a lot better for players because I actually do think you can practice too much and you can practice too long for the same opponent.
Yeah, paralysis by overanalysis happens absolutely everywhere. Speaking of overanalysis, saw a photo of you. Connor has a question.
Yeah, Coach, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but your best recruiting may have, come from a photo of you in a Ferrari with your triple styrofoam cup and America's Best being absolutely littered in your side door. If you weren't aware of that, just know, everyone's talking about it, absolutely loving it. Here's one of the videos. I assume that's one of your 6, 7, 8 Ferraris. It looks amazing. Were you aware of that photo kind of going viral a little bit? And did you know that you probably got about 5 stars committing to your school today because of it?
I don't know. They all want to drive it. But look, I got kind of hoodwinked into that. One of the guys that was visiting, we always have the players over to the house for breakfast on Sunday morning. And we walk out and they see the car and they all, ooh and ah about the car. And they said, why don't you start it up so we can see what it sounds like? So I went and got the keys and started it up. I didn't know the guy was going to video it and it was going to go viral, but, that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
We have the parents over on Saturday night, so they would have been much more interested if they'd have caught me line dancing.
I've seen you in some living rooms. Living rooms, Cupid shuffling out there. You got some rhythm, huh? West Virginia boy got a little rhythm. And the triple styrofoam cup. I mean, across all demographics that was beloved. You know, because that's either lean, which we assume it's not, or so, I mean, Coach, the more we learn about you, I think the more we love you.
Yes.
And you need to understand that. I assume you've been very guarded for a long time because you're ultra competitive and everything like that. And whenever you said you would come and do this show every single week, a lot of people said things like, oh, he's not his phone. It's like, people love you, Coach. You know that because you're still that same West Virginia boy who just so happens to be the greatest of all time. It's a cool thing. We're very grateful for that this year.
Well, you know, some of the things I learned growing up in West Virginia in a coal mining town have been very beneficial to, you know, getting to know how to really talk to, articulate with, communicate with, you know, everybody, no matter where they come from, what their socioeconomic background is. Because there's a lot of good people in West Virginia, and I learned a lot of good lessons growing up. And obviously, being in competitive sports since the time I was 9 years old, I had some great coaches and good mentors, and they all helped.
Yeah, well, they did a good job. They did a good job. Go ahead, AJ.
Coach, what do you see when you're preparing for this Michigan team that you'll be playing in the Rose Bowl? Like, we know obviously undefeated, everything they've done throughout the year, but when you actually study them and watch them, what kind of challenges do they present?
Well, they're a really good team. You know, they're very aggressive on defense, but offensively, they use a lot of personnel groups. They run the ball very effectively. The quarterback's a really efficient player. They got some really good skill guys. Number 18, the tight end, is kind of a mismatch guy, a little bit like Georgia's guy. So they present a lot of challenges based on formations, motions, movements, and all that type of thing. And they do a good job on defense, and they stunt. And, you know, you got to be ready for where these guys are going to be coming from all the time. So preparation, I think, is the key because it's going to be a little bit different than anybody we played against all year.
Hay in the barn already for the studying of Michigan as an opponent, or are we still learning, watching, everything like that?
No, we're really just learning and watching. This is a planning day to day, so we've used all day today to sort of try to zero in. Even though when you're on the road recruiting with the technology that we have now, you know, you can watch this stuff when you're in the plane and all that type of thing. So we've done quite a bit of that, but this is the first day we've been together as a staff sort of planning it all. And we'll use these next 3 days to do that quite a bit as we're practicing fundamentals.
What's that look like? Are we giving presentations in this meeting? Like offense coordinator comes up, tells everybody else in the coaching staff what they've learned, and then defense coordinator does the same thing. Is that what those meetings look like? And how long are those normally?
You know, I think one thing you don't want to do is do a bunch of stuff that your players aren't familiar with. So you think you're going to change a lot of things and create a lot of problems, but at the same time, you create a lot of problems for yourself. So, but we have everyone on the staff has something that they're really looking at, and they need to become expert in that particular, whether it's goal line, short yardage, some part of the game, red area, how you play bunch passes, you know, how we're going to, you know, block, you know, some of their third down looks when they're on defense and they're giving you all these, you know, mugged up looks and all that type of stuff. So everybody's got a specific challenge, and then we bring those things together and sort of try to figure out what works best in all those situations.
Nice. Well, we can't wait to see what you guys have come up with. We hope the recruiting trail was fruitful for you. That big-ass offensive lineman from Texas that was posted on the internet you took a picture with, he's a guard. I think we looked up, he's like 6'6" or something like that. Yep. He's moving to tackle, right? Never mind. You're not allowed to talk about it. How has the recruiting trail been, though? We got some good guys in the pipeline or what?
Been good. Yeah, I enjoy recruiting. You know, it's fun to go out and meet people. And, you know, I just took graduation pictures with a bunch of guys. And the first thing that comes to mind, these guys are graduating. It's like yesterday, I was in their home trying to get them to, you know, come to Alabama. And I always remember those home visits because there's some, you know, great experiences in meeting family and creating relationships. So it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. And, you know, like I've said before, I only do a good job of coaching good players, so that's kind of goes with the territory.
That was a great line. Yeah, I learned quickly that I'm not that great of a coach of bad players, but you give me good players, I'm a great coach. That's great self-awareness. And on the flip side, there's a whole new added element. Ty has a question for you.
Yeah, speaking of recruiting, Coach, obviously everyone right now talking about the transfer portal with over like 1,200 guys in there or whatever. How much of your recruiting do you have to kind of pay attention and look into what's going on in the transfer portal and kind of actively going after guys in there. Like, is that a big part of recruiting? Or are you mostly just, getting the kids out of high school because of how much success you've had? And if a kid wants to come to Alabama, obviously, it's not just like going to some, middle of the road school. Like, how much are you actively kind of paying attention to what's going on in the portal when you're recruiting?
I think it's a little bit like, most teams in the NFL like to build their team through the draft. So we like to build our team through recruiting, bring young guys in, sort of develop the culture with them that you need long term to see them develop into being good players. But I look at the portal almost like you'd look at free agency. If a guy's in the portal, he's looking to go someplace where he can play. And so therefore we need to have a need for that guy at that position. And if we have that need and he fits the profile of what we're looking for at that position, then, we'll recruit those kind of guys out of the portal. But we still like to try to build our team with, good, solid, fundamental young players that we can develop in the program and can learn the system and be here for 2 or 3 years and develop. But we've had some really good players out of the portal that have really helped our team in the past few years.
Yeah, Burton, obviously, just immediately top of line, has become a great threat for you guys down the field. And can't wait to see how you utilize him and that entire squad in the Rose Bowl just 17 days from today. I don't know if you've seen it, but you guys going in a college football playoff there's lawsuits happening all over the place. Yeah. There's lawsuits happening all over the place right now. Obviously, that's not in your world, but can't wait to see your team go do its thing in a college football playoff. We appreciate the hell out of your time, Coach.
We appreciate you having me, and we're looking forward to the challenge. It'll be a great game, I'm sure, but I'm really happy for our players that they got this opportunity. They've worked hard for it, overcame a lot of adversity, showed a lot of resiliency throughout the course of the season, so I'm glad they're getting rewarded for it.
Hell yeah. Hey, you too. A lot of coaching this year.
Yep.
Coach your ass off this year, Coach. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Saban. Thank you, Coach.